My name is Sarah and this is my Real Food Kitchen. And today I'm going to show you how to make a compound butter. And compound in this sense means mixture. A compound butter is something that is traditionally used to dress a steak, and that is what I'm going to do later. But a compound butter is delicious on fish, it's good on chicken, it's very versatile. So it's like, think of it like a flavor boost. And they're so simple. It's so simple that it can really almost not be called a recipe. It's just an assemblage of some ingredients. So we start with softened butter, or normally I would say room temperature butter, but I'm coming to you from Minnesota and it's cold and room temperature was not soft enough as it turned out. So I put it in the oven a little bit. It basically has to be soft enough that you can squish it with an implement. We don't want it to be softer than that because we're going to roll it up and put it in the fridge and then slice it like you would cheese or something. So we don't want it to get liquidy for sure. Okay, so this, how I have it right now, perfect. All right, so the butter is what we start with. I have 2 sticks of butter in here, which is a ½ pound of butter. That's kind of a lot. That's going to make probably 2 of these rolls. I'm doing that because I want to share some. I would say normally start with 1 stick of butter, which is a ¼ pound. So here's the base, and to this you can add any number of different types of ingredients to flavor your butter. Today I'm going to use chives, sun-dried tomatoes, some salt and pepper, and a couple of other seasonings. Let's start with the sun-dried tomatoes. These are my own. I grow my own tomatoes and I preserve my own tomatoes. I do that because things like tomatoes and other vegetables, raisins, things like that, are preserved in sulfates, which I don't want. So I make my own. And so now we just need to dry these up a little bit. So I'm going to press them in this paper towel, and that's dry enough. So now I'm just going to take a knife, chop them up, and you want, if you were doing 1 stick of butter, I would say you probably want about a ¼ cup of sun-dried tomatoes. Throw them in your butter. I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of finely minced chives. In they go. Actually, I think what's in there is enough. Some freshly cracked pepper. I like a little bit of chili flakes. Just a little. And I should mention what I have over here are a collection of the salts and spices that I use on almost a daily basis. And you can see that they're in these tiny little containers. Aside from being adorable, I keep them in small containers because they stay fresh that way. And so I buy my spices at the co-op and I buy them in small amounts. Spices go bad a lot faster than people might think. You know, I know people who've had the same, you know, paprika on their shelf for a decade. That paprika is not good anymore. So I like to keep them ready and in small amounts. So I've got the chili flakes. Oh, I need a little bit of salt. And I have all different kinds of salts here. What I think would be delicious in this is a little smoked salt. So I'm going to put just a little bit of that in there. Probably put the equivalent of a teaspoon. And then it's just mix it up. Now, a lot of times a compound butter would also include garlic. You could put shallots in here instead of the chives. I like the color of chives. And this is kind of a compound butter is whatever strikes your fancy kind of thing, trial and error. I happen to know that I am going to use this compound butter in combination with an herb mix called the gremolata later to dress a steak. And so I already have in my mind what herbs and seasonings are going to be in that gremolata, and I don't want them to fight each other. So the gremolata is going to have garlic in it, so there doesn't need to be garlic in here. All right, so that's mixed enough. And then all you need to do is take a piece of parchment paper. Let's go this way. And place some on there. And kind of try and form it into a log before you roll it. Okay. And then gather it sort of tightly into the parchment. I'm going to cut these ends off. And tape it. And then you can just kind of pinch the edges like that. If you're going to use it right away, and I'm going to use it a little bit later today, so I'm going to put this in the freezer. Normally you can just store them in the fridge and they'll harden up just like a piece of butter. And then when it's time to use them, you unroll it, it's hard, and you just take a knife and slice off a chunk of it, and it's ready to use. In another video, I'm going to show you how to use it to dress a steak. Thank you. Enjoy.